There are places in this world that do not look dangerous at all. They are not dark alleys or abandoned buildings. They are not the places you would warn a child about. They are far more subtle, far more polished, and far more socially acceptable. Yet these are the places where the true self is quietly erased. Not violently, not suddenly, but slowly, like water smoothing a stone, one small compromise at a time. Most people never notice it happening. They only realize it when they look in the mirror one day and see a stranger staring back. The tragedy is that you can live your entire life inside these places and still believe you are making your own choices. You think you are expressing your individuality when in reality you are protecting an identity that was never yours to begin with. And perhaps the most painful truth is that the world encourages this. It rewards the false self and punishes the real one. The real self is unpredictable, present alive, unpolished, inconvenient. So the world builds environments, physical, social, psychological, where your real self cannot breathe. These are the 7 places that destroy you, not by force, but by seduction. And the first one is a place almost everyone has visited, some for a moment, others for a lifetime. The first dangerous place is the place where everyone is trying to be someone else. It might be a room, a community, a workplace, a social circle, even an entire city. On the surface, it looks vibrant, ambitious, attractive. But underneath it is built on comparison. In this place, people speak in a language of masks. They measure worth through image. They perform constantly as if someone is always watching. They chase versions of themselves that look good on paper, but feel hollow in the heart. When you step into this place, you can feel your true self shrinking, adjusting, calculating. You study the room, not because you want to understand others, but because you want to see who you must become to fit in. The moment you do this, a fracture forms inside you. A distance grows between who you are and who you pretend to be. At first, it seems harmless. You tell yourself you are simply adapting. You tell yourself that everyone does it. But something subtle happens. You stop listening to yourself. You stop trusting your natural instincts. You begin to treat your intuition like a threat instead of guidance. You start editing yourself. You polish your sentences, soften your truth, adjust your tone, hide your uncertainty. You smile when you are uncomfortable, agree when you disagree, pretend you are fine when you are falling apart. Your real self becomes a backstage character in your own life. And what makes this place dangerous is that it rewards your performance. Every time you betray yourself in the right direction, you are praised. Every time you act out of alignment, someone claps. And the applause becomes addictive. You forget that applause is not nourishment. It is noise. And noise is the second dangerous place. The second place is the place where noise becomes normal. Not literal noise, though that too has its consequences. This is the noise of distraction, the noise of endless stimulation, the noise of constant urgency. It is the noise that refuses to let you be alone with your own mind. In this place, silence feels uncomfortable, even threatening. People fear it because silence reveals what the noise has been hiding. When you spend too much time here, your attention becomes fragmented. You cannot concentrate deeply. You cannot rest fully. Every thought feels interrupted. You feel busy even when you are doing nothing. Your nervous system stays in a mild state of alarm, as if waiting for the next notification, the next crisis, the next demand. In this place, you lose the ability to hear the voice inside you, the one that whispers truth before your mind complicates it. The real self speaks softly. It does not shout. It does not compete with noise. So when your life becomes too loud, you become deaf to your own wisdom. And without wisdom, every decision becomes guesswork. You chase what others chase. You fear what others fear. You desire what others desire. You move through life reactively, not consciously. The noise does not destroy you with violence. It destroys you by drowning you, and you do not realize you are sinking until you are already underwater. The third dangerous place is more deceptive than the first two. It is the place built on approval and performance. Here, your value is measured by how well you play your role. It might be your job, your family, your social identity, or the expectations placed on you since childhood. This place tells you that love is conditional, that belonging must be earned, that worth is something you must constantly prove. When you grow up in this place or live in it for too long, you start confusing approval with affection. You start believing that the only way to be safe is to be impressive. You worry about disappointing people. You worry about being misunderstood. You worry about breaking an image that others have built of you. And slowly, your life becomes a performance. You stop asking yourself what you want and start asking what is expected. You stop choosing based on authenticity and start choosing based on optics. You become strategic with your emotions, careful with your truth, selective with your vulnerability. The self becomes a project instead of a presence. And here is the real danger when approval becomes your source of identity. Disapproval becomes your source of fear. You live in a psychological prison where the guards are imaginary, but the bars feel real. The real self cannot survive in such an environment because it is too honest. The real self does not perform. It does not negotiate its worth. It does not apologize for its nature. So in this place, the real self becomes quiet, and the false self takes control. And the false self is a hungry creature. It always needs more validation. The minute you stop feeding it, it panics. Most people spend their entire lives cycling through these three places without ever realizing how much of themselves they have lost. You do not need to be in all 7 places to lose your true self. These 3 alone can exhaust you. But the story does not end here. There are still 4 more places where the destruction of the true self happens in ways even more subtle, more invisible, and more deeply woven into the fabric of modern life. The next place is one people rarely recognize because it feels so normal that it does not even look dangerous. And yet, it reshapes your mind in ways that can go unnoticed for decades. Next, we move into the 4th dangerous place, the place where honesty becomes expensive. The 4th dangerous place is the place where honesty becomes expensive. This place often looks peaceful on the outside, but inside it is built on unspoken rules, subtle tensions, and silent agreements that everyone follows without ever naming them. Here, truth is not welcomed unless it is convenient. People prefer harmony over clarity, appearance over authenticity, and comfort over real connection. When you enter this place, you can feel yourself walking carefully, choosing your words as if navigating a minefield. You learn quickly that certain thoughts are better left unsaid, certain emotions better hidden, and certain truths better buried. You sense that being fully yourself might disrupt the delicate balance that everyone else is trying to maintain. And so you begin censoring yourself. Not because you want to lie, but because you want to avoid the cost of honesty. At first, it feels like maturity, like you are being considerate, patient, wise. But slowly, without noticing, you begin to shrink. You begin to prioritize peace over truth, even when that peace is artificial. You begin to feel disconnected from your own feelings because you have learned to evaluate them not by whether they are true, but by whether they are acceptable. The real self cannot thrive here. It suffocates under the pressure of polite silence. The longer you stay, the more you forget that your inner clarity is not a threat. Eventually, you become so accustomed to hiding your truth that you start hiding it from yourself. This is how people lose their inner voice, not through trauma, not through chaos, but through the gentle erosion caused by environments where honesty costs too much. The fifth dangerous place is the place where everyone is rushing. Not walking fast, not being busy rushing. Living as if life itself is a race. In this place, speed is worshipped. Rest is treated like laziness. Stillness is mistaken for falling behind. Success is measured by productivity, not presence. People here do not live their lives, they manage them. Every moment becomes an item on a checklist. Every day becomes a countdown. Every interaction becomes a transaction. And when you stay in this place long enough, you begin to believe that you have no time for yourself. You stop noticing the sky, the changes in the season, the emotion on someone's face, the way your own breath moves in and out. You move so fast that you forget to look inward. And when you do not look inward, you cannot know who you truly are. The real self moves at the speed of awareness. It cannot be rushed. It cannot be scheduled. It cannot be compressed into a productivity metric. So when your life becomes a sprint, your true self is left behind. You are running ahead without realizing that the most essential part of you never took a step. People in this place often feel an inexplicable emptiness, a quiet sadness that lingers even when things look successful on the outside. They have achieved everything they were told to pursue, yet they feel disconnected from themselves. That disconnection is the price of living too fast. When life becomes a blur, you lose the ability to recognize what truly matters. You lose the ability to hear the subtle guidance of your intuition. You lose the ability to feel your own life as it unfolds. The fifth dangerous place does not take yourself away. It distracts you long enough for you to forget where you left it. The sixth dangerous place is even more subtle. It is the place that rewards numbness. At first, it does not appear harmful. It might even seem practical. This is the environment where people learn to shut off their feelings because feeling too much is considered inconvenient. It might be a place where sensitivity is mocked, where vulnerability is misinterpreted as weakness, where emotional depth is treated as dramatic. Here, people survive by becoming emotionally dull. They use humor to hide their wounds. They say it is what it is when they are actually hurting. They keep themselves distracted to avoid confronting their inner world. And the longer you remain in this environment, the more you learn to turn down the volume of your emotional life. You stop celebrating your joys because they feel excessive. You stop grieving your losses because others cannot handle them. You stop expressing your desires because they might make others uncomfortable. But the dangerous part is not just the suppression itself, it is the numbness that becomes normal. You begin to believe that you are supposed to feel nothing. You forget that emotions are not proof of weakness. They are proof of aliveness. When numbness becomes your baseline, you gradually lose access to your inner truth. The real self is deeply emotional. It feels life intensely, its beauty, its sadness, its contradictions. Without that depth, you become a version of yourself designed for survival, not for living. People in this place often describe feeling like they are watching their life from a distance. That distance is the cost of emotional numbness. It is the quiet death of authenticity. The seventh dangerous place is the most hidden of all, and the one people rarely understand until much later in life. It is the place you go when you abandon yourself. This is not a physical place or a social environment. It is an internal state, a psychological refuge built out of fear, guilt, and self-doubt. It is the place inside you where you hide your truth because you are afraid of its consequences. It is the place where you silence your intuition because it conflicts with what others expect. It is the place where you dismiss your needs because you have convinced yourself they do not matter. It is the place where you betray your values because you fear losing connection, approval, stability, or love. Every time you say yes when your body says no, you step deeper into this place. Every time you pretend to be fine when your soul is exhausted, you go further in. Every time you ignore the discomfort in your chest that whispers, "This is not right," you close the door behind you. People can live decades here, functioning normally, appearing successful, and carrying an invisible ache that they cannot explain. This place destroys the true self, not because it is dark, but because it is familiar. It feels safe. It feels responsible. It feels mature. But it is actually a prison built out of the fear of disappointing others. The real self cannot exist here. It is rejected before it even has the chance to breathe. The 7 dangerous places are not external threats. They are psychological environments that shape you when you are not paying attention. They are subtle, quiet, socially accepted forms of self-abandonment. And most people live in at least 3 or 4 of them every day without ever realizing the cost. The cost is not dramatic. It is existential. It is the slow erosion of your inner clarity. It is the dulling of your intuition. It is the weakening of your courage. It is the shrinking of your aliveness. When you no longer feel like yourself, it is not because you have failed. It is because you have lived in places that never wanted you to be yourself in the first place. But here is the deeper truth. The self is never truly destroyed. It is only covered, silenced, buried. And just as you learn to abandon yourself, you can learn to return. Return not by fighting, not by resisting, not by proving anything to anyone, but by listening, by slowing down, by being honest with yourself even when the world prefers you to lie, by allowing your emotions to exist without judgment, by stepping out of environments that reward your numbness, by choosing people who value your truth more than your performance, and most importantly, by refusing to betray yourself, even in quiet, subtle ways. The journey back to your true self does not begin with a dramatic transformation. It begins with a single moment of clarity, a moment when you recognize that something inside you has been waiting. Waiting to be heard, waiting to be honored, waiting to return to the center of your life. That moment is the beginning of the end of the 7 dangerous places, and the beginning of becoming yourself again. Next, we enter part 3, where we explore how to leave these places and rebuild the connection to your true self, one honest breath at a time. Leaving these 7 dangerous places is not a dramatic escape. There is no grand exit, no final confrontation, no triumphant announcement that you have found yourself again. The return to your true self begins quietly, almost imperceptibly, in the small spaces where awareness slips through the cracks. It begins in the moment you realize that something inside you feels off, misaligned, unsettled. For years you may have ignored that feeling. You may have overridden it with productivity noise, approval performance, or the comfort of doing what is expected. But when you are finally ready, when the exhaustion of pretending becomes heavier than the fear of being yourself, you notice the truth that has been waiting underneath everything. The truth that your real self has never abandoned you. Only you abandoned it. And the reunion begins with a simple recognition: I cannot keep living like this. The first step in leaving these dangerous places is learning to recognize their architecture, the way they shape your mind, and the way they drain your energy, the way they condition your reactions. You begin to see how often you censor yourself in conversations, how often you rush through your life without tasting it, how often you numb emotions because you fear their intensity, how often you override your intuition because it threatens your comfort. This recognition is not meant to shame you. It is meant to wake you. Awareness is the antidote. When you see clearly, you cannot stay asleep. And when you cannot stay asleep, the places that once held power over you begin to lose their grip. The second step is learning to slow down. not in the superficial sense of taking a day off or going on vacation, but in the deeper sense of learning to inhabit your own life again. When you slow down, you begin to notice the spaces between your thoughts. You begin to hear the subtle shifts in your emotions. You begin to feel the tension in your body that has been asking for attention. You begin to see what you have been carrying, what you have been pretending, what you have been avoiding. Slowing down is not comfortable at first. It forces you to sit with what the noise has been hiding. It forces you to confront the choices you have made out of fear. But this discomfort is not a punishment. It is a doorway. The truth does not enter your life through ease. It enters through presence. The third step is practicing honesty with yourself even when it feels dangerous. You do not have to announce anything to anyone else. You do not have to confess, explain, justify, or convince. The first honesty is internal. It is the honesty of admitting what you truly want, what you truly feel, what you can no longer tolerate, what you are truly afraid of, what you have been denying. Most people lie to themselves more than they lie to others. They lie to protect their comfort, their relationships, their image, their idea of who they should be. But the self you lie to is the same self you lose. The moment you begin telling yourself the truth, even quietly, even imperfectly, the real self begins to rise. Honesty is oxygen for the soul. Without it, you suffocate. With it, you breathe again. The fourth step is relearning how to feel. In the sixth dangerous place, you learn to numb yourself because feeling was inconvenient. But numbness is not protection. It is self-abandonment. To return to yourself, you must allow emotions to exist without judgment, without labeling them as good or bad, weak or strong. Emotions are simply signals, messengers, companions. They are evidence that you are alive. When sadness comes, you acknowledge it. When joy arises, you welcome it. When fear surfaces, you listen. When anger speaks, you understand. Every emotion has something to teach you. And when you allow yourself to feel, the real self begins to thaw. The numbness starts to melt. You rediscover the depth you once suppressed. This is not fragility, it is aliveness. The fifth step is setting boundaries, not as walls, but as commitments to yourself. Boundaries are not about controlling others, they are about protecting your alignment. When you say no to what drains you, you say yes to what sustains you. When you stop performing for approval, you begin living for authenticity. When you stop tolerating environments that silence your truth, you begin creating environments that nourish it. Boundaries are not selfish. They are sacred. They are the architecture of your inner freedom. Without them, you return to the dangerous places again and again, even when you know better. With them, you create a life where your real self can breathe. The sixth step is choosing people who see you, not the mask, not the performance, not the version of you that fits their expectations, but you. The people who value your truth more than your image. The people who can sit with your silence without filling it. The people who listen when you speak from the heart. The people who do not punish your authenticity. The people who do not need you to be anything other than who you are. When you surround yourself with people who honor your inner world, you stop needing the approval of those who do not. And when you stop needing approval, you stop losing yourself. Connection is not about being impressive. It is about being seen. When you are seen, the real self has room to expand. And when it expands, life becomes deeper, fuller, more meaningful. The seventh step, the deepest one, is learning to trust yourself again. Self-trust is the foundation of inner freedom. Without it, you will always outsource your decisions to others. You will always fear disapproval. You will always doubt your own intuition. But trust is not rebuilt overnight. It is rebuilt through small, courageous acts, making a choice because it feels right, even when others disagree. Speaking a truth that shakes your voice, admitting a feeling you once denied, choosing rest when your mind demands productivity, choosing presence over performance, choosing alignment over approval. Every time you honor your inner guidance, self-trust strengthens. Every time you betray it, self-trust weakens. Returning to your true self is not about perfection, it is about consistency. It is about choosing yourself in moments when it would be easier not to. Eventually, something remarkable happens. The 7 dangerous places lose their power. You begin to walk into environments that once triggered you, and you remain centered. You enter conversations that once silenced you, and you remain clear. You face expectations that once controlled you, and you remain grounded. You become unshakable, not because life becomes easier, but because you are no longer divided inside. The true self does not need to be defended. It needs to be lived. And when you live from your true self, the world cannot destroy you because you are not depending on the world for your identity. The journey back to yourself is not a return to who you used to be. It is the revelation of who you were always meant to be. Underneath the noise, the speed, the approval, the numbness, the pretending, and the fear. Your true self is not fragile. It is not delicate. It is not something easily destroyed. It is resilient, ancient, and endlessly renewing. It waits patiently beneath every mask you ever wore, beneath every role you ever played, beneath every place you ever hid. And all it asks is that you listen, that you slow down, that you tell the truth, that you feel, that you choose environments that nourish your soul, that you walk away from places that dim your spirit, that you trust the quiet intelligence within you, the one that knows long before you understand. When you leave the 7 dangerous places, you do not become someone new. You become someone real. You become someone whole. You become someone who can move through the world without losing themselves. And perhaps in the end, that is the true meaning of spiritual awakening. Not transcending life, not escaping the human experience, but remembering who you are beneath the layers of conditioning. Remembering that the real self was never lost. It was only waiting for you to return. And when you do return, life does not suddenly become perfect, but it becomes yours again,